Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, oxygenaddict.com.
Oxygen Addict is for all your triathlon coaching needs, as if you haven't had enough of Rob already.
Raceforce.co.uk.
They do race tours to loads of European races and get your bike there safely.
And triathlonbox.co.uk.
You can carry all of your stuff to a race in a rather cleverly designed box that even bounces on your bike on the top bar.
Does it balance or does it bounce? Did you say it bounces?
I did say balance, but you know.
Hey, if it bounces, I'm definitely getting one. That'd be cool. So, joined again by lovely Helen Murray. Helen, how are you, mate?
Rob, today felt like the first day of proper spring.
Did you get a ride in?
I did. Got a little ride in, cheeky ride, under clear blue skies.
Nice.
I went across to the other side. I went to Yorkshire.
Yorkshire, hey?
Yeah, I did.
God's country.
I did. I had a little spin out with Susie Richards, friend of the show.
Oh, the lovely Susie Richards.
Yeah, it was really nice.
She is a great person.
Well, we will hear from her because we did actually do a little interview. So hopefully that all recorded. And we should hopefully be hearing from her in a week or so, a couple of weeks.
You're not checked the tape yet?
No, I did.
Oh, she's overpromised.
No, I know it definitely recorded. At least I think it did. I even had headphones in when I was recording. I was being very professional.
Oh, very professional. I look forward to hearing that then. This episode today, we've actually got a stonking interview with Charlie Pennington. Do you know Charlie Pennington, Hells?
Don't know him personally, but I know he's a very fast athlete.
Very fast. He was second overall age group in Kona this year, and second in his age group. God bless him. Thought he had the age group win in the bag. When he crossed the line, he realised that the guy just in front of him, who he thought was a pro, was actually in his age group as well.
Wasn't it like 2 seconds or 9 seconds or something?
6 seconds away from the overall age group victory at Kona, because he thought it's basically thought he had it in the bag. And unbelievable story. The guy was, I think he was 29th or 30th overall, beat Freddie Van Leerd, ran 2:58, which was like the 6th or 7th fastest run of all the pros even on that day.
Because it was ridiculously hot, wasn't it?
Ridiculously hot.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Awesome guy. Great interview. So really excited that's coming
Brilliant.
up.
We've also going to hear this week from Joe Skipper. Got him on. We've got Laura Siddle on again. They love it. And we have Kim Morrison is going to be talking to us about her race as well. So we've got loads of really good results that have happened this weekend.
We have, yeah. Kim Morrison won the 70.3 Buenos Aires, didn't she, this weekend?
Yeah, correct. So she can fill us in.
First pro race.
Yeah, not first pro race, first Ironman race and first race as a pro in an Ironman race, basically. I think she did a couple of challenge races, I think, at the end of last season.
Right, okay, fair enough then. Fair enough, cool. So listen, where should we start with the results for this week?
Taupo.
Got to be Taupo, hasn't it? It's got to be Taupo.
It has to be Taupo. So this was Ironman New Zealand. And Rob, last week we were getting a little bit confused about time zones.
We were like a whole day out in the wrong direction, weren't we?
No, I think you were a whole day out. I think I eventually said, no, it's going to be on Friday night our time because New Zealand is ahead of us like 13 hours, so it will definitely be Friday night our time. And it was Friday night our time.
Oh,
there you go. Taking that one.
You're claiming it. You called it. I'm not going to dispute you. Well done.
Anyway, not about me knowing the time zones. It is about our British performers out there. Let's start off with Joe Skipper first of all. Wow, basically.
Well, we should really start off with Cam Brown. I know we're a UK-centric podcast, but Cam Brown, 43 years old. Was it his 12th or 13th victory?
It was his 12th Ironman New Zealand victory.
That's just incredible, isn't it? His first one was in 2001, and a lot of people were writing him off before this and saying, his days have faded. But not only have they not faded, he took 8 minutes off the course record, which had already taken 8 minutes off his previous course record. So his previous best on that course was something like 8:20, and he went 8:07. Now, New Zealand is not a fast course. No. It's rough, chip-sealed roads. And I mean, what an incredible performance. Him and Joe Skipper just hammered each other, and Joe really pushed them all the way to the line, didn't he?
I was looking at the very beginning when it would have started our time on Friday, and I couldn't see Joe's name anywhere because obviously he wasn't up in the mix coming out of the water. But then,
and his usual stellar swim.
But then, you sort of wake up the following day, happened, or maybe you, I don't know, might have woken up in the middle of the night and had a little look, and then suddenly you're like, oh yes, Joe's in it now. But wow, he put on such an incredible performance. And the bit that I was like, that's insane, the top 5 men all finished inside the previous course record.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's worth pointing out, like, the previous course record, which was Bevan Doherty at 8:15, was considered to be like the standout performance of the generation, because it was so, 7 minutes or so faster than Cam Brown had ever managed to get it down to. And they considered him to be the master of the course. So it's an amazing race they've had, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Joe himself knocked, 7 minutes off his PB? So he did 8:16 at Ironman Texas. And yeah, did a 8:09 in Taupo. So impressive.
Unbelievable. Cam Brown ran a 2:44 and Joe Skipper ran 2:45. So it's just incredible running, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I saw 2:40. Matt Hansen did a 2:41.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I mean, what an incredibly deep quality field, because it used to be that New Zealand, being relatively early in the season and the other side of the world, didn't really attract what people might describe as a deep field, but that really wasn't it?
Yeah, really, really good field. So Cam Brown took the win in 8:07.58. Joe Skipper second in 8:09.37, just ahead of Callum Millward of New Zealand, who did 8:10.57. Sort of further down, you had like Matt Hansen, Terenzo Bozzoli, Dougal Allen, Cyril Viano, who we had mentioned. We said our coast-to-coast winner. We mentioned him. So he did. I saw him the other day. I was just trying to. I'm gonna have to come back. I can't quite remember what he did.
Great radio help.
I know, Sam. Hold on, his name was Sam. Yeah.
Let's move on, shall we?
But Bev McKinnon, who we had heard from, didn't we, ahead of Wanaka?
Yeah, Bev McKinnon. Go on.
8:48.
No way.
Yep. When is he?
Oh, it's another. How old is Bev McKinnon now?
I'm sure, isn't he 45 to, hold on, 45 to 49, let's have a look. Yep, 45 to 49.
Another pat on the back for Bev McKinnon, another Helen's pat on the back.
Fist bump of joy.
He's got 2 of them now. There's not many people ever even got 1, and Bev's got 2. Good work, Bevan.
Right, I've got him. Sam Clark. He did 9:27.
Solid.
So there we are.
Solid day out. And I tell you what, it wasn't all just fast times on the men's side either, was it?
Oh, no, not at all. On the women's side, Meredith Kessler took her 5th straight victory at Ironman New Zealand. Again, breaking the course record in the process. She did 8:56. Second place went to Lucy Gossage, who did 9:05. And Carrie Lester did 9:07. Just ahead of Laura Siddle, who came in with a 9:09. Lucy broke the bike course record with a puncture.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's crazy. It's just honestly absolutely insane racing.
And Laura Siddle, I think, was only a handful of seconds behind her. I think they both rode really close together, and
we'll hear from Laura in a moment, and she actually mentions that they were, it was pretty close actually. But wow, and what a performance from Laura, who had only done Wanaka 2 weeks before. Honestly, really, really awesome. And Lucy, so she sent us her race report, because we're going to hear from Joe and Laura in a moment, but I think Lucy was mid-flight, so couldn't actually send us anything over. But she did send us her written up race report. And what jumped out at me was basically she had pretty much been injured since Kona. and she talked about she was really quite scared going into it about the pain, and that she might not be able to finish it. So she hadn't actually run. Her first pain-free run was 10 days before the race. She'd only started running again 2.5 weeks before getting on that start line.
Oh God, I hope she's all right. I hope she's not done herself some serious damage. The thing with Lucy is she's such a serious competitor, isn't she? That, you know, she talks in a race report about kind of wondering whether she should even have started.
Yep.
Man, I hope she's got away with it.
I don't know. Only she'll know that, won't she?
Yeah.
All she said at the end was she's pretty much immobile in Shanghai airport on my way home. In case you're wondering, running a marathon without run training and boarding a long-haul flight 24 hours later makes walking pretty tricky. So
it just goes to show how much fitness hangs over, doesn't it? How much fitness stays around when, you know, people think I'm injured and I'm out of shape, but actually she can go and do a run like that and finish second off literally no run training. Just goes to show how much fitness stays around and how much it is in your brain, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, really, absolutely incredible performances from everyone at Ironman New Zealand. So should we hear now from Joe Skipper and Laura Siddle?
Spider-Man strikes again. Thanks for all the support, guys. Over the moon with second yesterday after everything that's happened over the last 3 weeks, with travelling out here to New Zealand, the mechanicals at Wanaka, and breaking my collarbone at the end of December. After I did that, initially I wasn't even sure if I was going to race in New Zealand, so to be able to actually race and feel good on race day is, I'm just delighted with that, and to get second is a good result for me, I think, especially in that time and on that course. Hats off to Cameron Brown, who won it in 8 hours 7. That was a phenomenal performance, and there was nothing more I could do to catch him on that day. Got to feel sorry for fourth place, haven't you? Broke the Gold Course record and still doesn't even get on the podium. I think conditions were great for the course, and with us all being so close, it just brought the best out in everyone. So onwards and upwards. Now my collarbone's okay and I can actually swim. I'll be working on that again in preparation for Roth, where as I've said quite a few times, that I'm going for the British record at the moment, and hopefully will be the first Brit under 8 hours. So I'm really motivated to get back into training with my friends and catch up with everyone back home, and just to really push on and get some more good results and try and win my first Ironman. I always seem to be the bridesmaid and never the bride, so hopefully I'll change that later on this year.
Hi, Cup of Tri, it's Laura Siddle, just checking in after racing Ironman New Zealand in Taupo on Saturday. I finished 4th, so just that awkward spot of just off the podium, but overall, if I let it sink in, I've got a lot of positives to take away. It was my second iron distance race in as many weeks, so had a very open attitude to what would happen on race day. Had a good swim for me, so I'm happy with the way that that's progressing. And then had a good bike to follow that. Had the pleasure of playing cat and mouse a bit with fellow Brit Lucy Gossard, which was good. We both smashed the bike course record. Sadly for me, Lucy was a smidge faster for me, so she gets to claim it. But all good there. And then onto the run. Started to find my legs from about 2k to 10 kilometres, and moved in second ahead of Lucy, which is a little bit odd because I know she's a superb runner, but my plan was to not hold back, so I just had to go with the flow and the rhythm that I had at that point. 10 kilometres to 28 kilometres was a little bit agricultural for me, and I ended up dropping back to 4th place, but overall lots of lessons learnt, and all in all a good couple of weeks in New Zealand. So now in Sydney, and going to enjoy a week of rest and relaxation and enjoying summer and catching up with friends here, and then I'll get back to it and build on the performance in Wanaka and Taupo and for the rest of the year. Thanks again for the support. Hope all is well in the UK. Thanks. Bye.
There you go, Rob. So I'm so happy for them both.
Yeah, great performances from the pair of them, and it really lines, especially really lines Joe up for this crack at the sub 8 in Roth. If he can go 8:07 in a course like New Zealand, it really makes you think he's going to be able to go fast when it gets to the summertime. And Laura's managed to put two really great results together really early in the season, hasn't she?
Yeah, exactly, and so close, so close together. Oh, honestly, I can't even imagine getting on the start line again 2 weeks later.
You must only just like 3 days away from being incredibly sore.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Maybe we should try it one time. Maybe we should enter back-to-back Ironman's hells 2 weeks apart and just see how the legs feel.
I'm all right. I'll pass on that. I'll get someone.
I'm doing it. I'll find another race 2 weeks after Triathlon X. What would be 2 weeks after Triathlon X?
You're talking utter bull.
Ironman UK.
You're talking utter bull. It's never going to happen.
It's a long course weekend.
No, you're talking. I'm ignoring you.
I'll do it.
Yeah, right.
Let's see.
I genuinely don't believe you.
The challenge is there.
Fine.
If the organiser send me a free entry to UK, I'm in hells.
Whatever.
What's the worst that can happen? A really long, painful walk.
I think we might hear a little bit about an Achilles.
Yeah, I'll be moaning and whining on again.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Right, Rob, there was another impressive performance this weekend. We mentioned it a little bit earlier on. Why don't we hear from Kim Morrison? Because actually she goes into a little bit of detail about her race, but essentially a first Ironman 70.3 win for her.
Yeah, 70.3 Buenos Aires.
Hey Rob and Helen and your Cup of Tri listeners. Hola from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Ben, my husband and I travelled to South America for the first race of my 2016 season, kicking off my first year racing in and amongst the pros, and this is my first race at the Ironman brand in the pro field. We picked the race for 3 reasons. It was an early one and we wanted to check out how training was going. The course suited me well. I've previously been strong at flat TTs, and the course in Argentina sees us athletes climb a sensible 27 metres over 90 kilometres. Perfect for me. Thirdly, it's Argentina, and when your husband finds super cheap flights and it's our swimming pool low season, this is our family run business, the decision was easy. The weather also was perfect for racing too. Warm here but breezy, feeling like low 20s. So to paint a picture, we were having coffee in Starbucks, really soaking up local traditional Argentinian ways. And Irene Monticelli was sat by us and she kept getting asked for photos. Being the Ironman competitor that has gone sub 9 hours, Dee Dee was also on the start list, experienced and one really tough athlete. Len Wade had previously had a good race in Panama and finished on the podium earlier this year. Also, Sophie Goose, amongst other athletes that truly motivate me, were on the start list. So to race day. The race was beautiful. Lake was super stunning, smooth, and it was a traditional one loop. I swam with a couple of other swimmers with Len Wade up the road some 90 seconds. Onto the bike and I had a quick T1 which took me into second place. 30k into the super fast flat bike and I took the lead. I had the motorcycle for company, which was a really cool experience as a first timer at the front of the race. A 2-loop course with a couple of turnarounds made it easy to gauge positions, but it wasn't about that for me today. Today was about biking my socks off. From training, my bike potential looks great. I needed to translate this into a race scenario, and that was what the main focus was. I raced to feel rather than power to truly see where I'm at. Onto the run, and to be honest, it was a foot race to the finish line. I didn't dare look back once. I let myself look back once I hit the finish chute and I could see the ribbon. Once I was there, I did glance back, and there was Dee Dee approximately 10 seconds back in her vibrant speed suit. I was fighting to get there first. The ribbon went up, I cried, I smiled, I cheered, I looked left, I looked right. Oh wow, that feeling was truly electric. I ran straight through the line, grabbed the ribbon and took it to Ben, like our Suka bringing something she's proudly found in the garden. Oh, that moment was pure magic. 2 girls within 30 seconds behind me hugged and congratulated me. A very, very special moment. Thank you, ladies. I can't wait to get back out there in a couple of months. Next up, in 2 months, is Ironman 70.3 Pays to X. I raced last year and I'm so excited to race on familiar ground. Our puppy Suka may even join us. Thank you, Mark Pierce and Trisports Lanzarote, for getting me race ready last month. I had a solid block of training leading into this race. Thanks, Rob and Helen, and looking forward to catching up with you both soon.
So there you go, Rob. She mentioned there at the end she's trained by Mark Pierce, who used to be with British Triathlon, and I think he's got a few other people under him this year. Eloise Deloire is another age grouper, perhaps possibly on the fringes of pro. I'm not sure. Sorry if I've got that wrong. So yeah, but she's obviously come on leaps and bounds. So well done, Kim.
Yeah, top stuff. Right, where are we going to go next? We're going to go a bit of ITU action.
Yeah, why not? It was
ITU action.
So it was the first of the World Triathlon Series races, and in the, can we go GB women, because that was pretty impressive. Basically, so Non Stanford and Vicky Hollander, they're sorted for Rio. There's one more place, and there are 2 athletes, Jodie Stimpson and Helen Jenkins, who are essentially going head to head for it. They really need to prove that they can win a medal for GB, and they're going to have to do that at Gold Coast. That's really the one that it's sort of going to come down to. But I reckon they would have given the selectors a little bit of a problem, because in Abu Dhabi, Jodie Stimpson won and Helen Jenkins was 3rd. Ashley Gentle from Australia was 2nd. So seriously, whoever gets left behind they're a world-class athlete.
Yeah, it's a nice problem to have, isn't it? 3 or 4 even. There can be no argument that all 4 of them are potential medal winners at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. In the one hand, you've got the men's race is shaping up to be 2 Brownlees plus a domestique. And in the ladies' race, you've got 3 genuine medal contenders shaping up to race head to head, which will just be, it's really going to spur them on, hey?
Oh, absolutely. But I just feel really sorry for whoever not get there, to be honest. I know it's sport and I know these things happen, but to give everything for 4 years and then, well, longer, to be honest, but to throw everything into another Olympic cycle and then potentially not get there. So Jodie Stimpson, Commonwealth champion, Helen Jenkins, former world champion. It's really, really going to be tough on whoever loses out. What
does your gut say? Come on, I'm going to ask you this now. What does your gut say? Who are they going to choose?
I don't want to answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Don't want to answer.
I'm going with Jodie Stimpson. Yeah, I'm going with Jodie Stimpson.
Okay.
That's my feeling. I just think she's more robust. I think that Helen Jenkins, if she could get a run of injury-free training together, I think is a genuine medal contender. But she's had so many injury problems that I think if it was my choice, I'd go with Stimpson as things stand at the moment.
Yeah, honestly, it's such a headache for them. I really, because Jodie obviously didn't get to London. She was overlooked for London, and then she had such an impressive season in 2014. And you just sort of really hope that. Yeah,
she's proved it on a big stage. I mean, the Commonwealth Games is as big as you're going to get to before you go to the Olympics, isn't it? That big event type feel.
Yeah.
She's proved she can handle that pressure and perform in the next to biggest conditions almost. So I think I'd make the argument. I think the Commonwealth Games has got that more of a preparation feel than any of the ITU events, even the test event. So that's my gut. I'm going with Jodie Stimpson.
Interesting. So on the men's, Adam Bowden and Tom Bishop were both racing, but for the men's team, selectors are going to be sort of trying to select their support partner for the Brownies. at the Yokohama race on the 14th of May. So it's different.
So it's not too long to go now, is
No,
it?
so for the women, it's Gold Coast is going to be the key one, and for the guys, it's Yokohama.
I know they're basically going to make them race head-to-head and pick whoever the best person is there.
That's the impression I understand, yeah. That's what I get. So, yeah, I wouldn't like to be a selector, basically. I would not like to be a selector. So in Abu Dhabi, Adam Bowden was 11th. And I think, was Tom Bishop something like 30th? Something like that, I think. So, yeah, it's going to be. And it was won by Mario Mola.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good stuff.
There you go.
Did you watch any of it?
Did I watch any of it? I watched highlights, Rob. I was a little bit busy over the weekend.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, fair play.
I was in a classroom, so no, it didn't happen. Right, well, there was a little bit of world qualifying action a little bit closer to home, wasn't there?
Yeah, so we had Danbuster Duathlon and we had Alton Park Duathlon, which are both qualifiers for the Europeans and the Worlds, or the European or the Worlds, or one or the other, or both, or something.
Alton Park Sprint was a qualifier for the Worlds, and then Danbuster was a
qualifier for the Olympic, was it?
Qualifying for yep.
Or the standard, we should call it, shouldn't we? Not the Olympic.
For the Worlds.
Yeah, cool. So, race taken out by Dan Jenkin in 1:51, Harry Springle in 1:55 in second, and Luke Grefnell fell short in third. Over in the ladies' race, we had Claire Steels take it out from Jill Fullen in second place.
Amazing.
No way! Second place overall. And Ali Molt in third place, coached by Haltal Davis. Cool stuff. That's brilliant. Second place for Jill Fullen.
I know.
She's on fire again this year, isn't she?
Did you see some of her recent run times?
Well, I can see there.
Yeah.
She's
Amazing.
18:30 off the bike. That's full on. Matt Botchwell there in sixth place as well. That's his first kind of duathlon, triathlon thing that I've noticed popping up there.
Yeah. First multi-sport, first sort of run out, wasn't it, for him at multi-sport?
Pretty solid result. Fifth overall.
Have you seen his bike split compared to everyone else's?
Well, you know what? 3 minutes clear of Dan Jenkin.
Yeah.
I actually thought he might be. Maybe this underlines the class of Dan Jenkin on the bike, because there's a lot of guys with times in the 1:8, 1:9 category. So, to be fair to Botchwell, he has put 9 or 10 minutes into most of the top duathletes in the country, apart from Dan Jenkin and Harry Springle. Yeah, pretty half decent run as well there. 39 minutes and then 19:41 off the bike. So, yeah,
it'll be
good stuff.
very interesting, I think, to follow him this year, see what happens.
I want to see how he swims. I want to see. The real thing is he turns up at a half Ironman where the bike's really, really going to suit him.
Yeah.
And is he going to be able to run off the bike at that kind of standard? Because if he puts, 10 minutes into Chris Standage, for example, in the bike in a half Ironman, is Chris going to put 10 minutes back into him in the run? And will he have put 10 minutes into him in the swim already? So it's going to be interesting to see.
Time will tell. No, that's a cool one. Then, so over in Alton Park, Rob, what happened there?
Alton Park sprint distance, we had, he said, staring at the blank refreshing screen as it comes up, Carl Avery takes out the win over Bo Smith, young Bo Smith there, and his coach Roger Wilkins in third place. So good results there. I used to race Roger back in the day. He's an old guy like me, so that's a great result for him. And we haven't got it filtered by men and women for this one, unfortunately.
Oh, that's...
So I'm going to have to... Yeah. First female, Ellie Campbell.
Yep.
Second female, Sally Turner. And third female, Gwen Kinsey. So those are the results there. And over in the standard race, I think we're going to have to give a shout out to the standard as well, because it's kind of our hometown race, isn't it, really? The Alton Park Duathlon. Ain't far away.
Yeah.
Tony Cullen, who was on the old Fuerteventura Tri-Camp. And man, he was in good shape then, and he's underlined it here. 1:45 to take the win in the standard race from Tom Anderton in second in 1:47, and Tony's brother David Cullen in third in 1:49, both racing for Total Tri Training, which is awesome. Hawkins in fourth place there. And happy days. I'm going to give a shout out to Andy Heaps in eighth place in the age group win.
Honestly, I've just seen that. That is Well done, Andy Heaps.
Yeah, Andy is, so people know, Andy is the kind of the internet web builder, marketing brains behind Team Oxygen Addict, and he's been doing some serious training recently, and that's like a massive PB for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 or 3 minutes off his 10k time. Yeah, amazing performance, man.
Sorted. Well done. In the women's
podcast, you get to talk about your own mates occasionally.
In the women's, Dion Allen of Race Pace took the win in 2:03. Second was Jill Mead from City of Chester Tri Club in 2:06, and third was Naomi Kira Wright in 2:08.
Cool stuff. There's some duathlon results. I like that. It's getting to the time of year when there's a few more races in now, isn't it?
I know. We can sort of chat about other stuff.
Actual races rather than just talking nonsense, hey?
Yeah, makes a change, doesn't it? Rob.
It certainly does.
Who is then, we mentioned him in the introduction, Mr. Charlie Pennington, interview of the week.
Yeah, Charlie Pennington, interview of the week brought to us with raceforce.co.uk. We're very happy that they're a sponsor for the show here. And we've got a little shout out here that the Mallorca 70.3 Challenge Ross and Barcelona are almost full. So if you're looking to book a space for your bike out to those events, you need to get on it quickly. Remember, if you use the code COT10, you get 10% off their services apart from the bike bus standard over at raceforce.co.uk. So Hell's interview of the week is with Charlie Pennington. And I was dead excited to get him on because I've been following his Twitter for a while, and he's one of the Team Free Speed guys. He's had some awesome results in the run up to this, and then to finish second overall in Hawaii, second age grouper, and in the top 30, and go, the time that he did was absolutely phenomenal with a 2:58 marathon. Yeah. So hats off to him. So let's hand you over to our interview of this week with the lovely Charlie Pennington. Charlie, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate it, mate. And it's great to finally have you on because I've been following your journey with great interest over the last couple of years. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, really. And thanks very much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure and a real honour to be on the show. I'm as we'll probably get to, I've recently started a new job, which means commuting to work each day. And, listening to music or whatever seems to be the sort of ubiquitous thing that everybody does on the commutes into London. So listening to your podcast each day is something that has kind of brightened my morning up as I've commuted in.
That's very kind of you.
It's kind of so thank you. Yeah, but it's kind of like finally, I think I've just about caught up on everything. But yes, it's given me something really interesting to listen to as I sort of make my way into work or back in the evening. So yeah, thank you. It's great to be part of it.
Oh, good. Well, listen, it's the other way around. It's very kind of you to say you're honoured to be on. But I mean, for people who don't know you and don't know your background, I've been looking forward to having you on for a long time because obviously British triathlon is without question going through this resurgence at the moment, and we've got so many successful athletes at the pro level, and we also seem to have that success rolling down into the age group levels as well. And I think your story and the story of other athletes at Team Free Speed have been some of the standout stories of the year, really. So do you want to just give us the greatest hits and tell people what you consider to be, let's say, your 3 best race results of this past year? We can go from there, really.
So right, of the last year, Kona probably has to be the number one. That's even the fact that I didn't win. I'd gone there to win. I'll be brutally honest. I'd gone there to win, and I didn't win. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. But so just the whole experience, the whole just being there. It's really difficult to describe what Kona is to someone who's not been to it. It just sounds bizarre. I go, really? It's just a race? Yeah, it is a race, but there's so many other bits and pieces to it that just add to the whole environment and the climate of it. It's just fascinating. And so that was, for me, probably the highlight. I guess the second highlight would be Ironman Austria. So I went there in June, just thought, I'll have a go. It seems a fast course. There was a whole bunch of faff about me getting there. It turned out, I think the week before the race, actually, it turns out I hadn't actually entered the race. I hadn't actually ticked the right box when I applied.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. There was Yeah.
So tell that story then. You got to Austria and
Well,
what, a week out, it turned out you hadn't even
yeah,
entered.
so I'd kind of thought it was a bit odd. I hadn't had any emails about this race that I'd entered. I entered it a week after Ironman Wales the year previous, so or at least I thought I had. And I thought, this is really strange. I've not had any information about when race waves or any of it basically. So and I'd done it all through Nirvana. And it turns out I paid for the accommodation, I paid for my flights to get out there, but somehow I
hadn't checked the box that was the race entry included. Oh man,
exactly. Hence some slight panic when one of the key goals of the year was to go out there and have a really good confidence booster before going out to Hawaii. So that was a bit of mild panic, but the guys at Nirvana just sorted me out. I don't know quite how they did it, but a slot.
God bless him.
A slot was made available, and I paid for it, and job done. But it did then inhibit a few things, so I wasn't able to get in. There was a fast wave for people who could swim fast or whatever. I wasn't able to get in that wave. But do you know what? In the end, it didn't really matter. It just took a whole load of pressure off me. So, but yeah, that was quite funny. And I guess it's really difficult to say what was my third highlight based on the fact that those two were so sort of demanding over the year.
Yeah, of course. Well, talk us through the numbers then, because I mean, we are type A personalities here. So, Austria, how did your day play out in terms of what did you swim, bike, and run, and where did you finish in your age group and overall, things like that?
So I came. And it's interesting. I listened back to this the other day because you guys were speaking about it in one of your podcasts. So I think I was 10th overall. I was 9th male, and I was 10th. 9th male, but 10th overall because I was beaten by the female winner Eva Wuti by I think 3 seconds or something.
Disgusting.
But to be honest, it's a different race, and you don't really know about that. And it's just get on and do your thing. And certainly, so of
course,
in terms of numbers, I think I swam a 52-minute swim. I biked 4:52, and then I ran 2:52. There's some fascination with 52s in there somewhere, but with transitions, I couldn't tell you what the T1 and T2 times were, but it all amounted to 8:45 and change.
And top 10 overall. And were you the first overall age group?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it was a kind of, I had in my head what I thought I could do, and I was quite formulaic in just sort of going out there and doing what I thought I could do without, almost not thinking too far ahead. So I swam just without really thinking about the bike, then biked without thinking about the run, within reason, and then just ran, and just suddenly, the run is almost done. And it sounds kind of really contrite to say it, but I actually had just one of those days where, because I didn't have any pressure to qualify for Kona because I'd already done that at Ironman Wales the year before. Actually, it was just like a really nice day out. I kind of it didn't really get properly hard. The wheels didn't start falling off until maybe 5 kilometers from the end on the run. And that to me is like, well, that's perfect. I kind of balanced it out perfectly well. That's exactly when it should be starting to get hard.
You can take the pain for 5k at the end of a great day out, can't you? For sure.
Exactly. And do you know what? There was a couple of points there in the very end of the run. I thought I need to just sort of stretch out a cramp or two or something like that. And then you think, I'm into the last 5k. Of course I can run 5k. That's a given. So it was just like one of those days where I got to the end and went, yeah, done. Okay. And
do you think the race played out differently for you because you weren't in that kind of that fast swim as well?
I think it did. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always difficult to know for sure because you don't know, because I'll never put myself back in that position with the same sort of factors and things going on in my head. So you never really know. But would I have swum a bit quicker? Maybe I could have swum a bit quicker. Would I have then had other people around me on the bike? Well, actually, do you know what? I had people around me on the bike anyway because I'd caught all the waves ahead of me. So, I mean, by the time I came off the bike, I think I was in wave 5. By the time I came back into T2, I mean, I could probably count the number of bikes in T2 on both hands at that stage.
So you knew at that point you were absolutely flying, and you realised you managed to cruise through the field. And that's kind of a positive mental place to be, isn't it, at the start of the run?
It's a cracking course. It's a really fast course, which is one of the reasons I'd gone out there. If I'm brutally honest, I thought I wanted to have a go, see if I could go under 9 hours. Because you never know what's gonna. It's always easy to say, "Well, I'll try that next year," but you never know what next year is going to bring you in terms of injuries or whatever else. So it was just kind of, let's have a go and just sort of see what happens, roll the dice, as it were. But the bike course is 2 laps, and on the first lap, I kind of went, I just need to pick this up a bit. I kind of got to the end of the first lap and realised that I probably wasn't going quite fast enough, so just sort of picked it up. And I don't know. Obviously, the training works, because I had a really sublime bike leg. Really, I sort of got to the end of it and felt good. I'd worked on my nutrition and the effort, so I was quite steady with power, making sure I didn't go over too much or too little, and just sort of kept at it, and it just set me up really nicely for a good run.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's kind of everybody's ideal dream day, isn't it, really, when everything feels great and the run even feels good right till the last 5k. So obviously that's a fantastic performance out in Austria, and I remember really clearly talking this through with Helen, and at the time, I think, if I'm honest, it's the first time you'd popped up on my radar. I hadn't read about you through any of the the online sources at the time, and Helen and I were going, who's that guy in 9th place? Oh, that's amazing. Was it the kind of thing that you were confident you could put that kind of time together if everything went right on race day? Was that kind of what your numbers were suggesting from training?
Yes, in a word. I mean, it's difficult to say that without sounding arrogant or cocky. And as you know, that fine line between confidence and arrogance, it's kind of really difficult. But I think at some point you got to back yourself.
Of course,
when you've done the training and you know what sort of numbers you've been pushing out and you're feeling good and you're injury free, and you think, I've been doing this for a while. I know what I'm capable of doing. I think it was it's still relatively new to long distance racing, but I was pretty confident that if things went well and I didn't have any mechanical failures and I kept to my nutrition plan, etc., then there was no reason why I couldn't be around 9 hours or under 9 hours. Quite how far I would get under 9 hours, I didn't really know, and that was kind of one of the reasons for going out there, was just to sort of test that threshold a bit. I kind of, be honest, I don't think I really tested it fully. I think, and that sounds even more arrogant, and I apologise for that. But
no, it doesn't at all. It's really interesting to hear you say, because you obviously you're really in tune with yourself through your training, and it's great to sort of hear the realism in your voice is great, I think, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just having that, knowing what you can do, but it's going and doing an Ironman and trying to figure out that, what point do I need to get to before I actually blow up? I mean, that's something that's really difficult to test in a race, because you can't just sort of get up, unless you're like Joe Skipper, who just goes and races 1-2 weeks later. Most normal people will not be able to go and race another Ironman within a short period of time. It's a significant investment in terms of time, effort, money, all of those other pressures that they've got going on. You want to get it right each time.
Of course,
and just having that ability to go, do you know what? Let's just throw caution to the wind and see what happens. That's a really difficult thing to do. I had that chance in Austria, but I was also sort of tempering that with, I don't want to screw this up, because I kind of want to go under 9 hours. I don't want to get it completely wrong and then just fail, because that won't be good for my confidence going to Hawaii. So there were other pressures, but perhaps not the same as I would have normally, going into any other race, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Hey, well, listen, let's take you back a little bit and go through. I'm always fascinated by athletes who've got to an incredibly high standard, and learn where they came from originally. So let's go back to childhood and talk about what kind of sport you did as a child and growing up and things like that.
I guess master of, jack of all trades, master of none, I guess, is probably I did a bit of cross-country running. I swam, competitively, but nothing above sort of county level. But I ran. I kind of just had this. I sort of went through a growth spurt in probably my final 2 years at. In fact, no, it must have been when I was about 16. I just sort of went through this really strange growth spurt I remember coming back into school that for my sort of final 2 years at school or whatever it was, and just suddenly I could swim much faster, and cross country running, which I somehow had been collared for for most of my sort of secondary school, of which, I was okay, but I was never very good. Suddenly I was like, if we were doing training, right, we're going to do 3 laps of the football field or whatever it was, and Charlie, you can do 4 laps, because, I'd have lapped everybody by the time that we'd have done it. I don't know, it was just something, suddenly I was...
So something changed,
something
did it?
changed.
All of a sudden you seemed to go through a threshold in your abilities. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, and I just had a real passion for just going out and running. So, I mean, I went to a boarding school, and my Sunday afternoons were spent just getting lost in the Kent countryside, just going running and see where I ended up.
I see.
And then trying to get home again. So
yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah, plenty of those sort of stories in my life. But then, I was okay at stuff, but I was never very good, and I certainly hadn't really ever touched a bike. That all came about when I was at university. I did quite a lot of... I was in the sort of territorial army for students, the officer training corps at university, and some good friends of mine who were absolutely... actually then off to join the Marines, and I subsequently joined the Marines with them. They were quite into sort of running and exercise and stuff, so I kind of did quite a lot of training with them. More of these sort of wild runs, let's just see where we end up, and figure out how we get home. That involves a river crossing. Okay, no problem. Let's just swim across, that kind of stuff. Really, really random. You go and run for a couple of hours and see where you go. But a mate of mine who was one of the staff on the officer training corps had said, "Hey, you can run and you can swim. Have you ever thought about doing a triathlon?" And this was back in 97, 98. And, triathlon was sort of, although it had been around for a few years, clearly at that point, it certainly wasn't anywhere near the sort of sport it is now. And I went, what's that? Swim, bike and run? Yeah, that sounds all right, because I'm not very good at any of those, but put more together, maybe I can. I think he might have had an ulterior motive, because I bought a bike off him, so that might have been... so maybe I misunderstood that. But anyway, I was hooked. So I gave it a go, a couple of races in 98, 99. Again, nothing spectacular, but just kind of like, this is good. It just fitted with my mentality of I want to go out and train, I want to keep fit, but without having to do any one specific thing. I can now suddenly be okay, mediocre at this sport. It was kind of like oh wow, revelation. This thing exists where I don't have to be good at any one thing. I can be average at 3 of them, and actually that adds up to being not bad.
And it's a sport that rewards people who enjoy exercising as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go out there and do the hours, and you get the rewards almost across the board.
Yeah.
How many hours would you say you put together training if there is such a thing as a standard week? What do you think you'd be putting out at the moment? So, or if we say in the run up to Kona,
in the
run up
that. Yeah. So right now it's a bit different, but certainly, do you know what? Probably an average about 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So one of the things that I'm always really fascinated by, and social media is such a useful place in many respects, but it's also quite dangerous for finding out this sort of information. You can track people on Strava or Garmin, or the more vocal people will tell you exactly which training they've done on Twitter or Facebook, and how many hours and how good they are. There's all that sort of stuff that's out there, and some of that can be quite intimidating, because I certainly, I think I listened to someone's podcast or I read an article by somebody who in fact it was the guy who won my age group in Kona, and he had said, look, I don't do a lot of training, and they said, okay, how much? And he said, well, about 24 hours a week. And my mind was blown. I was like, what?
Yeah.
How can you fit 24 hours of training in with a job and a family?
And how can you not consider that to be much? The fact that it's 3 hours a day, every single day, plus a few more on one of the other days, right?
Yeah, I have no idea how people can fit those sort of things in. And I know there's a South African friend of mine that she's just turned pro, and in fact she won her age group at Austria. In fact, she was the first amateur as well at Austria, and I think she was doing in the region of high 20s to low 30s of hours of training a week on a busy job. And you just kind of, I don't know how people manage that, and how they can manage to do that consistently without either killing themselves or just being absolutely exhausted all the time.
Yeah. Well, how does your training break down then in terms of number of swims, bikes, runs a week? Are you kind of a swim 3 times a week kind of guy?
I try and.
I guess with your background, it's not hugely crucial, is it, that you swim
Yeah, I mean,
mad volume?
It's kind of like I try to swim 4 times a week if I can. If I get 3, that's okay, but I prefer to swim 4. 3 of those are on my own typically, and then one of those sessions is with a local tri club on a Saturday morning, and that just gives me a bit of a chance to be sociable for once, which is quite nice, and also do some sessions which probably I wouldn't normally have put together, or indeed my coach wouldn't have put together for me. So just changes things up a little bit. So yeah, usually about 4 times a week. I typically would bike maybe 3 times a week, and of which one of those might be a long bike, on a Sunday sort of Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, whatever it is. And then, running is again usually 3 times a week, with one of those being a longish run. Now, in the lead up to Kona, all 3 of those runs were, middle distance to longer distance runs. So, each of those would have been an hour and a half. Of that, each run was around that sort of distance.
Sure.
But that has to vary. I mean, life varies. So I think probably one of the things I have learned as I've got older is just to be flexible and listen to body and all those other influences and things that are going on in your life. You've got to balance those things out. You can't just. I don't get stressed if I kind of okay, so the plan says I'm supposed to do this run session today. Do you know what? I can't do it because of other stuff that's going on. If I can't fit the run in, or I can't substitute it with a slightly lesser run, then if I miss it, it's not the end of the world. I'll be all right tomorrow. I'm not suddenly going to have fallen off a cliff in terms of fitness. So, I think I'm a bit more mature about those sort of things than perhaps I would have been maybe 10 years ago. I'd have been
interesting.
Well,
yeah.
I think, you can get too worked up about I've got to go out and do my training. I've got to do my training, and my wife will tell you that actually I am that bloke that needs to be sort of let out the door at the weekend. I'm sure she'd argue against what I'm saying.
Take the dog out for a walk.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? Otherwise you go mental.
Oh yeah. Indeed. She will absolutely, say that is what I'm like. But
Okay, so we just lost the call a little bit there, but we've got you back now. I think we've just pretty much wrapped up your training week, and I love your advice there about, obviously, it's great to hear someone like you say life gets in the way as well, and you've got to kind of be relaxed and just roll with it and try and be as fluid as you can, really.
Yeah, I mean, and do you know what? So as I mentioned that my coach and I have a really good relationship in terms of, we talk each week, we look at what my actual week looks like, and how realistic is it I'm going to get various things done on certain days of the week. So we have a sort of rough sort of plan, if you like, a sort of backbone to each week, and then we sort of sit down and chat that through. There's no point the coach saying, like, go off and do whatever it is, this particular session, if you just can't get it into your day, because then you get stressed about it, and you either won't do it, and then you try and fit it in at some other point. It doesn't work. So I think just having an open, honest relationship with your coach is a really good start, and making sure you have those questions, and certainly Chris and I do. And if it doesn't work, it's a two-way thing. He will say that if it he doesn't just sit there and sort of dictate, all right, you are to do this. He'll talk to me, because over sort of whatever it is now, almost 20 years of racing, I've got a little bit of an idea of what kind of works for me or what doesn't work for me. But he's really good at sort of doing that, sort the wheat from the chaff kind of thing. He'll just say, nah, don't do that, or have you thought about doing this instead? So it's a proper mature two-way conversation, rather than me just taking advice, in a sort of one-way direction each week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the athletes that get to your level, on the one hand, it's interesting that you still have a coach and you still have that relationship and someone to bounce ideas off, because obviously you do know your body really well after 20 years. And I think you're very smart to still work with someone you can consult with at the same time, who's going to say, well, look, have you thought about doing this? And I love your phrase, sorting the wheat from the chaff, because that's so much of what a coach does at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Clearing out the things that aren't really working, and then taking some consultation from you about how your week is going to be, and then working out a best way forward from there, really.
Yeah, it's really, Chris came and he asked me to come and help, because he does he sort of helps out doing BTF level 3 coaching courses, and he'd asked me perhaps 2-3 years ago to come and sort of basically help out on one of the courses, and just sort of give give people my perspective on what I thought coaching was and how it works. And it was really interesting to then hear people, the guys on the course, to hear their sort of feedback at the end, because it was almost as if he and I had sat down and kind of written the scripts together, but that genuinely wasn't the case. We just kind of both have the same approach to it, and I think that's really, I've been lucky that it works together. He and I work really well together, and I think that's important. You need to, it's like any other thing that you buy into. In some respects, you want to make sure that what you're buying into works for you, and if it doesn't, then be polite about it, move on, and find something that does work for you, because it's really important you get that relationship right. If you're going to invest money and time and effort into it, then it needs to be something that works both ways. So if it doesn't work for the coach or it doesn't work for you, then you've got to step away from it, or have a sit back and think about how you can make it work for you.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for anybody out there. That's good, mate.
Yeah.
And it's clearly worked well. You've had this great week in Austria, and I then want to bring this back round to Kona. We talked about it very briefly at the start of the show. And I've done a little bit of reading around this, and it's interesting the take that's on the Team Free Speed write-up about this, because for the people who don't know, you went out to Kona and your aim there was obviously you wanted to win your age group.
Yeah.
That was the big
yes.
that was the big chase, right? That's what you're after.
Yeah.
And well, you talk us through it. Tell us, I mean, you had in terms of a person sitting back and looking at the actual times and results and stuff, you had a fantastic day at the office in terms of a performance out there. And I know it wasn't quite what you hoped for, but talk us through the sort of the run up to Kona and how the race itself went.
Yeah,
and let's go from there.
Do you know what? So without trying to bore your listeners, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that were sort of linked here. So I left the Royal Marines after 16 years last year. And I had a bit of sort of, I purposefully had made space in the diary, if you like, in terms of looking for a new job and whatnot. And I was really, really lucky to, in June, kind of basically secure myself employment with Deloitte as a consultant from probably sort of November. I wasn't entirely sure the exact starting date, but probably November onwards. And I left the Marines at the end of August, so I had this like nice clear space in the diary, which just lended itself perfectly to getting some decent training in and just making sure that I was fit and healthy for Kona. Because as I said before, you never know what life's going to bring you. So it was kind of a case of I've got to go out there and respect it as the course, and the sort of the myth and legend that is Kona. And you don't want to be going out there like Macca and just say, yeah, this is easy. I just need to go around at this speed and I'll win, no problem. You don't want to be that guy. Well, you might want to be, but I wouldn't recommend it because probably everyone else will think you're a bit of a knob. But there's definitely an element of respecting it and just making sure that you don't try and do too much too quickly on that sort of first outing. And that was all the advice I was given by everybody. Like, yeah, it's your first outing, go out there and see how it goes. So I sort of had to temper that with, do you know what? I've got all this time, and I can get myself properly fit because I'm not working. This is the time to do it, because I might never get this time again. I'll never get the opportunity to invest my time and effort in the same way. So I went out there quietly confident, especially after having done quite so well in Austria. I was sort of quietly confident that I think I can do well here if everything goes together well. I certainly will be near 9 hours there or thereabouts. And historically, you look back through the results, and you kind of think, well, that's going to put me up there somewhere very near the top, if not at the top. It just depends on whether there's that, every now and then there's some freak accident of somebody who's just like mega athlete who turns up and just destroys everybody, a la Chrissy Wellington or something. But yeah, it's just, I figured, now was the time to do it. So I kind of invested in that. I went out to Kona 3 weeks before the race, and spent time out there to acclimatise. Having raced in Las Vegas at the 70.3 Worlds twice a few years ago, I'd kind of realised that you can do all this cool training and you can get yourself mega fit, but if you're not acclimatised and you're not ready to race in that environment, then it's just wasted effort, because you'll just be found out very quickly. So it meant sort of leaving home basically for almost a month by the time I got home. So, but I figured it was probably the right thing to do. If I was going to go to Kona, I wanted to do it properly and make sure that I hadn't, I didn't want to go out there and say, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do well because I didn't want to go out there with excuses. I wanted to have lifted all those stones and gone, yeah, I think I've done everything I possibly can do. I've got myself fit. I'm ready. I'm acclimatized, all those good things. And that's pretty much what I tried to do. So I tried to sort of discount all the other stuff that was going on, the craziness that Kona becomes when there's how many thousand people there, all looking scarily fit and healthy. It's too easy to get caught up in it. Whereas I was just like, this is my training plan. This is what we've kind of agreed. Let's stick to it. Let's not try and kill myself now, because you know what? 2 weeks before Ironman World Championships is not the time to suddenly start throwing in masses and masses of volume. It ain't going to change anything. You're only going to make yourself slower.
It sounds like you did the right thing by managing your head almost.
Yeah.
It sounds everyone I've spoken to who's been out to Kona has said you've never seen 2,000 fitter looking people in one place before, and that can just completely do your boxing and the run up to the race day itself.
And you know what? I mean, I kind of treated the race exactly like that as well. I tried to just sort of, Chris and I have this thing of, control the controllables, if you like. It sounds very sort of David Brailsford kind of esque, and that's kind of what we try to do. Control what you can. If you can't control it, just don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do about it. Now that's not always true, because certainly in a race, typically those last 10 kilometers of a Ironman or something like that, the tactics suddenly start to come to the fore and have you put yourself in the right position physically and in terms of location to actually try and take a win or something like that. But certainly as an age group racer, it's very much about, it's just one big time trial, really, from start to finish. And if you can kind of get that compartmentalized in your head, it actually takes away quite a lot of the pressure. You just think, right, I don't need to worry about anybody else. I'm just going to do what I know I can do. Stay within the rules. Obviously, that'll be it. That should be good enough. Now, that's obviously didn't work out. It didn't quite work out. But
well, I mean, it nearly did, didn't it? Let's go through the day. You put together a 58-minute swim.
Yeah, it was a 57, I think. 57 swim. And then a 450. I want to say 55, but it's probably a bit 457, I think. And then a 258 run. So I mean, I guess it's all about conditions on the day as well. So you never quite know. You can have in your head what you think you're going to do and the power output or the speed you're going to go, but the conditions on the day will kind of dictate what you can and cannot do. And to a certain extent, you've got to see what everyone else is doing, because there's no point killing yourself thinking, right, I've got to ride at my threshold for an hour or whatever your crazy plan is. If, do you know what, by doing that, just it's going to destroy you for later in the race. So I probably underdid things. I think I didn't swim perhaps as fast as I perhaps knew I could do, and I certainly didn't bike as fast as perhaps I knew I could do. It was really interesting. So somebody else that you guys have been talking about, Paul Burton, who's a good mate of mine.
We got him lined up for an interview as well.
Good. Yeah, he and I spent some time in Lanzarote on a training camp before going out to Kona. We had good bromance out there just before going out to Hawaii. But it's funny because he'd spent his time whilst we were out in Lanzarote saying, I'm not a very good swimmer, and yet he came out of the water really not that far behind me. He then got ahead of me in transition, and I think he basically, we didn't see each other on the bike until I came back into T2, and there he was just coming in. He'd basically stretched out this lead on the bike on the first half of the bike section up to Harvey, and then on the way back from Harvey, I sort of decided I need to put my foot down a bit and started to catch everybody at all these people that had perhaps overtaken me on the way out because I was going a bit too easy. I now started to catch or overtake on the way back, and he was one of them that I almost caught. It was just really odd that over that huge period of time, how many hours we were in at that stage, he was probably only about a minute ahead of me by the time I got into transition, which he was unexpected, and likewise was unexpected from my perspective. But yeah.
And how much of the I'm fascinated by on race day, especially somewhere so far away from home. Did you have anyone kind of letting you know where you were in the age group and whether getting updates, or were you just literally running blind and not really knowing what was going on?
So this is probably something that my experience should have told me I needed to work on more, because I've been in this situation before. In the 70.3 Worlds, I came second in, was it 2012 or 2013? I forget which year. Again, because I didn't quite know what was going on around me, and I probably ought to have done something about it, and I didn't. So yes, I did have people on course. So Richard, who runs Team Free Speed, he was out there. There was some friends who were out there. My wife came out in the final few days before the race. So there's definitely people I knew, on the course supporting. But it's a really difficult thing for them to know, because I don't know. I mean, you'll have done the same as everybody else, I'm sure, who's listening, and kind of realised that Ironman Live Tracker is just appalling.
It's not that live, is
no.
it?
And actually, it doesn't even track as far as I can tell. So it's actually a bit of a misnomer. It doesn't actually do anything it's supposed to do, particularly well, anyway. So it's really difficult to know who's ahead and who's not. So I sort of got this information from both Richard and from Deanna, my wife, and kind of, you don't quite know whether to believe it or not, because
of course,
my experience tells me that I don't think they've got the full picture. So it was really frustrating. I mean, there's nothing. Certainly, the swim and as far as I was concerned, for my race, the whole day was about, the swim and the bike were a prelude to the run. That's probably my strength. Can run quite well, and I knew that if I set myself up for a decent run, having made sure that I was, there or thereabouts, having had a decent swim, and certainly biked okay, but kept it relatively comfortable, then I should be able to run through the field and hopefully put myself near the very top. So I didn't really worry about any of the information that was coming my way, perhaps as I came out the water or indeed coming off the bike, because it only really starts to count when you're on the run. Because that's where it really starts to hurt.
Yeah, sure.
And at that point, I remember going into the energy lab, and Richard, who was taking photos at the energy lab, was saying, "Yeah, the guy's like 6 minutes ahead of you or something." And you know what? And I was like, "Really? Okay. I don't think I'm going to,
You don't want to hear that in the energy lab, do you?
No, I was like, okay. That was on the way into the energy lab, and I was like, right, 6 minutes, and I almost just dismissed it, because it's kind of like, at that point, the conditions were, I'm now at this point of, it's almost survival. I don't think there's anything more that I can do. I'm certainly not going to up my pace, because I haven't really got that in my arsenal of things that I can do at that point, because you're just tired, and you just have to sort of do that, that body check of, physically, am I all right? And I kind of like, okay, kind of resigned myself to the fact that I might be in second, but fine. And then at some point, not too long after that, I remember running past this guy who his race number was the same as mine, but one number less. And I thought, oh right, that must be the guy. That must be it. That's him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just like completely blown up, and I've passed him. So I wasn't entirely confident that it was, but in my head I was like, I'm not sure. I might be now in the lead or not. And I remember that, coming out of the energy lab thinking I could be in the lead, but I don't really know, and I'm getting conflicting information from people, so maybe they've got it wrong or I've got it wrong. You don't know. And it wasn't then, as it turned out, I remember I think I passed Lucy Gossage at some point on the way back in on the Queen K, and I had to stop and walk for a bit because I was starting to cramp, and she then passed me again. I then carried on running and passed her, and you start to see people, there's pros along who are just having a really bad day, who I started passing. And I remember seeing this guy way out ahead, who was in fact, he was the guy who was the age group winner, or my age group winner. But I remember seeing him miles and miles ahead and thinking, oh, that looks like another pro. I hadn't even thought about trying to catch him. And even if I had thought about trying to catch that guy, I mean, I genuinely couldn't say that I had the ability to do it at that point. It was, how long can I suffer for? And hopefully that will outdo his ability to suffer. That's pretty much it. I couldn't change the pace. It was just, right, can I keep going at this pace without having to stop anymore?
And come on, you gotta break everyone's heart here now, man. How far behind the guy were you when it got to the finish line?
So this guy was like miles ahead, and I hadn't made that effort. I kind of mentally went, right, I don't know who he is, don't know if he's in my age group. He looks like a pro, so let's not try to waste effort trying to catch him, because I was literally sort of on that verge of stop having.
When you thought you were leading, right?
Yeah, and I didn't want to ruin that in case I was leading. And I was starting to cramp, and I was starting to think, okay, I could really do with walking. So you're on that fine line of, I can just about keep this going, I'm surviving. If I now try and do anything more, I might go past that line, and then that just ruin my whole day, because it's really easy to suddenly add like 30, 40 minutes more in your last 10 kilometers, and that's it, game over in terms of going out there for the win. So it was that real balance of, let's just keep going, keep me in this position, because I don't want to ruin what I think, where I think I am. So you've got to put that, you've got to get that context in your head, if you like, of that's what was going on. So I wasn't trying to catch this guy, but it turns out by the time we came onto Alley Drive, and as I came into the finish chute, there was this same guy was now ahead of me. And I must admit, I didn't make any, because it's a really, the atmosphere as you come into the finishing chute in Hawaii is just awesome. It's incredible. It's electric. You just suddenly get this buzz and this energy to go, wow, okay. And you see, I certainly picked up my pace, but I guess I wasn't sprinting, and I certainly wasn't sprinting to try and sprint past this guy who was now not that far ahead. But when we crossed the line, he crossed the line 6 seconds ahead of me. Yeah, and it was only then when I shook his hand, because it's the right thing to do. The guys just finished ahead of you, so I shook his hand and I read his race number, and my heart sank. I was like, yeah, he's in my age group.
He was the guy.
Yeah.
He was the guy 6 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
And that was the gap to the World Championships win, hey?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that as I say, my heart just sank at that point, because I wasn't sure. So I had this sort of mixture of hope and elation, kind of, I think I've done enough, and then the reality of you've definitely not done enough, and you're definitely in second place, if not further down. And yeah, actually that was quite an emotional point for me. I needed to. I went and sought out my wife after. I spent a little bit of time in the medical tent afterwards, but I needed to then. I needed, rather than sit with friends, I just needed to go and get my head around that a bit. So I was quite antisocial for a few hours. I just needed some time with her and just gonna get my head around what had just happened.
Yeah,
because
of course.
Yeah, but that's how you learn. That's how. So to answer your question, which I've probably done in a very roundabout way, but to go back and say, yeah, I think I could have done that better. I certainly could have had people on course monitoring things in a better way, and me being able to sort of listen to what's going on. And you see people out there with clipboards writing numbers down, and you always think, yeah, they're just taking it a bit too seriously. The reality is, yeah, I probably should have taken it a bit more seriously myself.
Man, I'm gutted for you. I'm delighted for you. On the one hand, it's an incredible performance, and to put out a 2:58 run, it's well up there with the pro runners, and so you've got to give yourself this massive pat on the back for that.
Yeah, it was. It was really. I think actually it was the 7th fastest run of the day.
Wow. That really puts in perspective, doesn't it?
Well, it also puts in perspective that it's 2:58, which is a fast run, but when you look at the other courses and people are running 2:40s and the like, it just gives you an indication of the conditions of the day. I mean, everyone was struggling.
And do you think the fact you're out there for so long beforehand, the 3 weeks, really helped you acclimate to the heat?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first got out there, it's not necessarily the heat. The heat I was kind of ready for. It's just the humidity and the heat combined is what really takes it out of you. And you've got to get out there beforehand. I'd kind of done some research, and like I could, was a week enough? Didn't think so. Was 2 weeks enough? Probably. And was 3 weeks enough? Absolutely, definitely. I went out there 3 weeks beforehand because A, I could afford to, and B, I didn't have anything else going on other than being at home with my family. So I sort of left them for 3 weeks, and
definitely one for people to consider going forwards. I think the longest possible acclimation period. Hey,
well, I think there's a bit of I probably, if I was to go back out there again, I think 2 weeks would be probably the point at which I'd say 2 weeks is the sweet spot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it gets expensive
And
otherwise.
I think that well, it's going to get expensive anyway,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The next natural question is where you see yourself headed next. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're in that transition and you've changed jobs, but there's also that undeniable eating away at you,
Yeah, absolutely.
away from the World Championships win kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think you'll go back? Will you be able to get the life in place to be able to put the opportunity together again, do you think?
Well, in short, yes. And
That's great.
but I've put together basically. Chris and I have sat down and sort of sketched out a sort of 2-year plan to get there. So this year, yeah, there's quite a bit of turmoil. I have a slight injury at the minute, which I'm trying to deal with, which has stopped me from running for a few months. So there's a whole bunch of things that just sort of made sense to have a slightly quieter year this year, new job, get used to the lifestyle, commuting, and get into a rhythm a little bit, and then hopefully so. September is Ironman Weymouth, which is pretty much. I've got a bunch of other races. There's some domestic racing which I've got planned, but certainly not Ironman. Anything Ironman other than. Oh, I know I lie. I'm doing 70.3 Staffordshire as well, I think. But yeah, good point.
Snuck that in.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But I mean, in terms of big goals, Ironman Weymouth in September is my sort of real focus of the year. And yeah, I mean, I want to qualify for Kona from there. I mean, I'll be honest, I want to win Ironman Weymouth. I mean, that's what I want to go there and do. But depends on lots of things before that. So yeah, if I can qualify for Kona, tick, I'll be very happy. And that'll set things up for 2017, and I should be in a better position then to sort of manage my workload, etc.
Fantastic.
But yeah, there's a whole bunch of things just to need to sort out first, really. So, yeah.
Well, again, I think that's it's a real good example to people who are listening about if you are serious about doing this, and I think a lot of people are, you have to take a long-term view, and maybe sometimes 6 months isn't enough. It's got to be a year, 2 years, and think, all right, we'll sketch this out.
Yeah.
Choose the race where I'm going to perform, but most importantly, you've got to get the work and the life balance set in place first to create that space to do the training.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything's going to fall apart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the sort of the critical thing for me. Certainly going Kona last year. I spent a lot of time, money, and effort getting myself fit and ready to go out there. Most of which was at basically I took away all of that time, money, and effort from my family, pretty much. So they were the definite losers in that respect, and I kind of need to give them back some of my time. I need to be part of my kids' life a bit more, but trying to fit that in amongst a new job, and there's just a whole bunch of things that I didn't really know. So it's about getting that balance more in their favour rather than my favour, because it's let's be honest, it's a very selfish sport, especially if you want to compete at a high level. You've got to put those hours in at some point, and that generally is, you're going to have to give up spending time with your family at some point in order to do that.
Yeah, of course.
And for the guys that go back to Kona year on year on year, I mean, man, those that have married, kids, sometimes I kind of wonder, like, really, how can you manage that? How's your family manage to not have you around?
It's the great balancing act, isn't it? That's the question we try and answer every week.
Yeah, well, yeah, indeed. And I'm not saying I've got it right. I think I just know where my priorities lie for this year, and I just need to, having had a real selfish year last year, this year is more about rebalancing, and then refocusing for next year.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, listen, man, thanks very much for giving us the time to come on the show. I hope we can have you on again in the future, and after Weymouth and headed towards Kona next time, I think you'll make a great repeat interview, and we'll see what you've learnt along the way and what you've managed to tweak, and see if we can nick and steal any ideas from you to help the listeners out.
Do you know, it's really interesting. Thank you. I'd very, very much like that. It'd be awesome. It is just a learning experience, isn't it? The whole thing. So if you'd have asked me like 5 or 6 years ago, do you think you ever go to Kona, or do you think you ever do an Ironman? I would have defiantly told you, no, don't be ridiculous. Why would I want to do that?
Just goes to show, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I think, 2 years ago, I'd never run a marathon, or 3 years ago, I'd never run a marathon. All these things that suddenly had to fall into place. So they get to Lanzarote, to Wales, and and then to Austria, and then to Hawaii. So yeah, I'm still on that journey, and I've still got masses to learn, because it just keeps changing. There's always something.
Great.
Yeah.
Good
So
stuff.
yeah. Plenty to learn yet. So I'm not sure I got it right, but I've certainly learned a few things along the way.
All right, well, listen, Charlie Pennington, thanks very much for coming on the Cup of Tri. We appreciate it, and we look forward to watching the results in the future. Take care of yourself, man, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Just imagine that, mate, putting together a 2:58 marathon.
It's chapeau. It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's
Chapeau
really...
doesn't begin to cover it, does it?
No. No. He is one super ridiculously impressive athlete, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And a nice guy as well, that's the thing. You chat and you have a laugh and you think he's really down to earth and really pleasant. So it's great when you see the nice guys winning stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the ones who clearly put in all that hard work, and it does show that the old hard work pays off. So, yeah. And he got silver, didn't he, at the 70.3 World Champs in 2012, I think.
That's right, yeah. So, yeah, he talks about that in the show. So he's got a couple of silvers now. Bless him.
A little bit talented.
Just a little bit, yeah. A little bit talented and very, very consistently hardworking. That's the key.
Wow. And now it's really good. We can all learn something from the winners. From the winners, Rob. We can, it's impressive.
Right, let's head on over then, away from people who just win stuff. We talked about wanting an age grouper of the week, didn't we? We wanted people to nominate their age group performance of the week. And we had a tweet come in from Try Neat Fitness nominating her pal, Michelle Donnelly. And I really like this because it's not about like winning stuff and dominating an event. 2 sickness bugs in the run up to the week, back to back. So pretty much your worst possible preparation.
Yeah.
Then pulls out a 9th and age group at the standard distance at Alton Park this weekend. So that's a good pat on the back there, Michelle. You're getting our vote, aren't you, Helen?
Yeah, for age group athlete of the week, definitely. Well done.
That's good stuff. It was nearly you, Tony Cullen. It was nearly you for that dominating win. But, 2 sickness bugs in the week just edged it. So if you want to nominate anybody, any of your friends or club mates for the age group of performance of the week, just drop us a tweet over at Cup of Tri. Tell us who they are and why. 144 characters or less. We'll keep it nice and neat and tidy.
Perfect. Brilliant. So, Rob, what other... I hear that you've been doing a bit of like moonlighting elsewhere. It's not just a Cup of Tri.
An awkward comment. I've been seeing another man behind your back, Helen. I've been hanging out with Bevan and John over an Ironman Talk, haven't I?
Why? No, sorry, that sounded like really like, so why?
It really did.
What I mean is, Rob, why? What's wrong with Cup of Tri?
Oh, hell.
What's wrong with your baby?
Bevan and John are my idols, man, and they're the reason I started a podcast in the first place. And the chance to go on there and talk about run-walk technique, I'm not going to turn that down, am I? And bless them, they give us the chance to plug Team Oxygen Addict a little bit as well, which is really cool. So yeah, it's nice to get over there and get on the show. It was pretty cool. And I've got to say, they are really nice blokes as well in real life. Chatting before and after the recording, I was a bit nervous because their audience is, pretty sizable, and they had a real good laugh with me and made it very pleasant. So yeah, top couple of guys. If you want to go and check their show out, if you've never heard IM Talk, it used to be back in the day called Ironman Talk until they got a knock on the door from the lawyers to say,
oh no.
Yeah, it used to be Ironman Talk. And they got the lawyer's letter to say, don't use that anymore, please. So now it's imtalk.me, and they do a great weekly podcast that I think comes out on a Monday night or a Tuesday morning. So go and check that out.
I love it. So basically, everyone who loves a good triathlon podcast can sort of spread it across the week, because we come out on a Wednesday, every Wednesday, oxygenaddict.com/podcast. What you've got the IM guys then a bit earlier in the week. You've got Fitter Radio coming out at the start of the week. Sorted for all of your long sessions.
You've been listening to a bit of Fitter Radio. I quite like their stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm a regular listener.
Are you tempted yet to try this low carb, high fat thing?
No.
You like your cake too much, don't you?
I sound a bit. Yeah, you like your cake too much there. Yeah.
Can you imagine anything worse than a low carb cake?
I'm just trying to think of I'm really trying to think. I've made a
What would you put in it?
I've made a weird
Avocado
cake. I've made that before, haven't I? So
yeah, but you can't just have avocado
it's
in
not.
it, can you?
It's
just an avocado.
really. It's not cake. That's the thing.
Yeah,
It's a healthy
just
mix
like
of ingredients that go in the oven.
It's a salad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a warm salad.
And you can cut it.
One of the guys, Damo, came down and he was trying this low carb, high fat thing. And halfway through the track session, you could see the stars in front of his eyes. God bless him. I thought we were going to have to wheel him into the co-op and pour some chocolate buttons into him. It was messy, man. Yeah. I've got this theory, right, that if you eat healthily, you already eat a low carb, high fat diet in the real world compared to like the majority of the Western world who are drinking a 40-ounce Coca-Cola in McDonald's. We're already on a low carb diet. We need a bit of carbs.
I personally just feel that I actually like a little bit of, I'm quite sort of strict about the training, and I really try to do that every week, and I'm quite strict about life and in general. And so if I was strict about food, I don't think it would particularly be very healthy.
You'd implode.
I would, and I'd probably get really, really, I already think I eat pretty healthily. Yeah. And I don't think it would be a good path to go down, basically, for me. But I'm not saying
the hungry dizzy Hulk.
Yeah,
it?
totally. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, and I'm not saying it's not good for the people. But personally, for me, that's the road that at this moment in time, I don't want to go down.
You ain't doing.
No.
Yeah.
No. So, but
maybe for my 45th birthday, I'll try it. Maybe that can be my punishment to myself.
But the thing is, this is it. I'm sure once you get
an avocado cake for your birthday.
Happy birthday. Once you get used to it, though, I'm sure that actually, like most things, you get used to it, and I'm sure you probably feel better for it.
Hal Towel raves about it, doesn't he?
Yep.
You can't get enough of the old peanut butter.
So there we go.
Love stuff. Right, we're going to have to wrap it up, I think, Hells. We're pretty much done, aren't we, for this week?
I think we are, but are you having some kind of webinar-y thing? Am I invited to a webinar?
You can be invited to a webinar.
Can everyone be invited to a webinar? What's happening? I wanted to...
Well, it's all Andy's idea. Andy's like the marketing genius behind Team Oxygen Addict, and we tried one with the team last week, where basically they got to ask us questions via email beforehand, and then we kind of answer them on the webinar thing. But there's also this chat box thing that comes up, so you can type your questions into the chat box. So we kind of sat there side by side, and Andy's got the chat box questions coming up, and I was answering the questions about training and would you do this and would you do that, and it was actually really cool. So it's a bit like a live podcast, if you like, where people get to ask questions. So yeah, we're going to do one. It's going to be on Tuesday. Let me get the date right here. Tuesday, the 15th of March. So it's going to have happened by the time the next episode comes out. Tuesday, the 15th of March at 8 o'clock GMT, which there's a whole load of other various times up on our website. The address you need to go to is team.oxygenaddicts.com/run webinar. And the idea is I'm going to do a 20 to 30 minute presentation on how to run your best Ironman marathon. So all the stuff I've learned about how to train and how to perform on race day, and we're going to make it applicable to half Ironman stuff as well. And then for the second half of the webinar, we're going to get people a chance to ask questions if they want to clarify something about what they've heard, or if they want to ask about something completely unrelated, they get the chance to ask questions to me live. Well, not live, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of through this chat box thing. So yeah, zoom over to the page, just register your name and your email address, and we'll then send you out an invite, which you click, and then on the day you just kind of click the link and up the thing pops, and you tune in and sit there and watch it like telly. So yeah, exciting times, eh?
Good stuff. Yeah, I need.
You've listened to my voice enough, mate. You don't need to be listening to me in your spare time as well.
Well, this is it. I think I might be drying my hair.
Thanks, mate. This is what I get for spurning you and going on Ironman Talk, isn't it? I am Talk. Sorry, I am Talk. Save the lawyer's letters, please.
Yeah, don't send us a lawyer's letter. We don't want any of that. Yeah, I can't even think. I barely know what I'm doing tomorrow. I can't even think what's happening on Tuesday next week.
Can't think what you're doing on Tuesday the 15th.
No, there'll be work, but who knows what time work will be? I've no idea. It's written down somewhere.
There you go. Get your headphones out. Someone will think you're transcribing an interview and you can sit and listen to the webinar while you're at work. Everyone's a winner. Right? Anybody with a desk-bound job in the evenings, if you're in a call centre, there's your perfect excuse for an hour's worth of triathlon nonsense in the evening, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, we do our lunchtime listening every Wednesday. We put a little, tweet out saying lunchtime listening and what's on the show. And I wonder if many people sat there at work with their headphones on.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's more of a gym. I don't know. Where do you listen to us? Do you listen to us in the gym? Do you listen to us when you're on your long runs? Do you listen to us in the car? Let us know. It would actually be quite interesting
to know, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're in this kind of weird position, right? We sit here and we do this and we put it out there, and like anyone can listen to it. And you look, last week we had, I think, 950 downloads of last week's episode, right? Mm. So that I'm sure all of them can't be my mum. They can't be. She can't be listening to it 950 times.
She'd be pretty bored of your voice, Rob.
Oh God, yeah.
Exactly.
You think so?
So
drop us a tweet. Let us know. Let's get some interaction going. And if you've got anyone who you think deserves age group performance of the week, send that through as well.
Yep. And if there is a question for Coach's Couch, we haven't really done it this week, but we are always here for Coach's Couch. So again, email us or get in touch via @CupOfTri on Twitter.
Great stuff. Right, let's wrap it up then with an advert for Triathlon Box. If you're looking for a way to carry your stuff between the car and transition so it doesn't fall off and the box doesn't balance on the top tube, if you've tried to ride with your bag over your shoulder and it swings around and it hits your aero bars and you almost go into the oncoming traffic like I might have done on one or two occasions recently, Triathlon Box is a pretty neat way where the box just slots over the top tube. Really clever little cutout thing in a box. You can push and wheel your bike along and be an absolute comfort with all your gadgets and gizmos all neatly stacked inside in an IKEA genius-like way.
Fantastic. And Rob, before we go, I just want to say a very big thank you to Laura Siddle and Joe Skipper and Kim Morrison for sending us some thoughts on their races. It's really good to hear from you and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. Really cool. And Lucy Gossage as well for emailing us while she was, bless her, she was on the Wi-Fi on Virgin Airlines emailing us stuff to make the deadline, which is really cool as well. So what a great week. I'm loving it. Loads of great, successful, the exciting races have started. We've got some British success. Everyone's a winner, Helen.
I know, and qualifies for the Duathlon ITU World Championships age group stuff. So yeah, brilliant. So we will be back next week with more news, probably another interview somewhere. Maybe Susie Richards, who knows? And in the meantime, have a happy and safe training week.
Fantastic. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We'll speak to you again same time next week. Bye now.